Yes, guys, welcome back to another episode of this Sit Down. It's a slightly unconventional, different one today. Obviously, as a guest-based podcast, we rely heavily on sort of sorting out and organising guests to interview, and that can be difficult at times. So I thought this week what I'd do is I'd sit down with you guys and actually my girlfriend behind the camera and answer a couple different questions that I thought you guys might like to know about me. We've had quite a few new subscribers on the channel in recent sort of weeks. Obviously, Mark Goldbridge came on the channel, very appreciative of that. Sort of came on. Quite a lot of you have watched that video, which I'm very, very appreciative of, and a lot of you have subscribed as well. So I thought I'd sit down, introduce myself, get into a couple of little questions about myself, and just, get you guys to know a little bit more about me. So I have got Megan behind the camera, my girlfriend, to ask me a couple different questions. So I'll just throw it over to you.
So Sander, why did you start the sit down?
Why did I start this sit down? Interesting question. I've been doing YouTube for ages. You could go back to 2017 odd, 2016, 17, vlogging. Got a little camera. I've always been an entertainer. I've always wanted to stand on top of the stage and shout and be the entertainer, performative guy. So I think YouTube has always been a way that I've sort of been able to express myself through that. But in planning and deciding, what YouTube videos I'm going to make, I realised I've got nothing interesting to talk about. I've got. This is going to be a very uninteresting video. I'm not a very interesting person, but I still wanted to perform. I still wanted to entertain. So I thought, how can I do that? Interview other people, speak to other people about their life and their issues, and from that I can sort of do my entertaining thing as well. So I think I started to sit down for that reason, just as a creative outlet to start entertaining, but in a way where I don't have to sort of speak about myself because there's nothing really to talk about, which probably isn't a good sign for this video. But that answers that question, I think. You
mentioned that you started YouTube when you were pretty young. Did you get any stick from your friends for starting a YouTube channel at school?
Well, yeah, this is I think a loaded question because you know well enough, because obviously me and my girlfriend grew up in the same area. And I started YouTube, as I said, in 2016, 17, and you start vlogging, and that does not go down well at school. And let me tell you that much. I was vlogging, but I was also doing top 10 things that, I don't know, you like to do on a Saturday or something like that. I was just doing things like that, top 10 things that irritate me and things like that. And, when people at school, kids can be cruel, right? And especially when someone sticks their neck out and starts to do something that they, think was cringy. And it probably was cringy. I don't know what you thought of it at the time, but it probably was cringy. But I saw it as a way of just trying to do something in my life. I see it as a way of, as I said, a creative expression, a creative outlet. But also, this is what I want to do. I'm sure we'll get onto my future sort of job aspirations later in the video, but this is what I want to do in my life. I want to entertain. I want to present. So me starting that back then, the YouTube vlogging back then, was just a way that I thought I could be productive and sort of contribute towards my future. So, I got a lot of stick, to answer your question. I got a lot of stick. I'm not sure bullying's the right word, although I think it wouldn't be unfair to say it was that. I would walk around school and people would just take the piss, but not in a light-hearted way. People would take the piss really just to get out and get me. I remember I did a roast video, and people were so out to get me. I did a roast of my friends, and people could send in their messages, but send in also videos of their friends. And so one guy sent me a video of his mate saying, roast him. So I said, okay, I'll have to ask your mate to see if that's okay. So I asked a friend, and he said, yeah, that's fine. And then I roasted him. And then screenshots of conversations come out. And that friend had basically said, I'm going to allow Sander to roast me so that when he does, I'll start him and tell him to fight me. This is the sort of thing people were just out to get me at this time. So it was frustrating. But I think at the end of the day, a lot of it is contributed to sort of my thick skin to an extent. Because obviously here, a lot of you guys, if not all of you guys, are actually just really lovely. I don't get much hate on this channel. But at times I present for the United Stand as well. At times when I presented on there, I've had a little bit of stick here and there, and so I've been able to deal with that to a decent extent. And I think a lot of that is down to sort of a lot of the abuse that I got when I was younger. So
we've had a lot of questions from budding interviewers and show hosts asking about how you set up your channel, struggles of that, money issues, finding guests, etc.
Yeah, I get this a lot, to be fair. Guys, I'm no one. I've got, 3,500 subscribers at the moment. I was on 1,000 subscribers before Goldbridge came on. But yeah, I'm on, I'm 3,500 subscribers. That's nothing. But you know, you got like I do get a lot of messages saying, how do you do it? What do I do? What equipment do you use? How can I get in touch? How do you find the guests as another one? And I think for me, I spent a lot of money on like the lights, this microphone, the tripods. You know, got a 2-angle set up, 2 camera set up. I spent a lot of money on that. That's student loan money, by the way. Like I struggled to eat and go out quite a bit after the purchases. But for me, I've always wanted to set the bar high and start as a means to go on. So in regards to equipment, I just broke it down and sort of thought, you know, what do I need? Microphone. All right, well, let's look at what good microphones there are. I did my research. Bang, found this one, right? Cameras. I always wanted 2 angles. You know, I've got one camera, and the other one's my girlfriend's, and you can, you know, ask for favors from people that might have a camera. Phones nowadays are really good as well, so you can literally just use that. Tripods, you know, you need a tripod, go look it up, go find it. Use your money, ask money, work for your money, you know? I think a lot of people... Listen, I'm very fortunate. I'm very privileged. Was brought up with a lot of privileges. I'm very grateful for that. But you know, this is all student loan money, and so I think you can make it if you want to make it work. You can make it work as long as you just go out there and do it. And that's, I think, the most important thing. Just go out and do it. Make it happen, because you can do all this. That's what I've been sort of culpable of in the past. You can give it all the chat you want in the world, and I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. I once said I'm going to reach 100,000 subscribers in a year. You can give it all the chat you want, but if you don't sit down and film the video, nothing's ever going to happen from it. And so I think that's just the main thing for me, just starting, reaching out to people. And as far as guests are concerned, I literally just reach out to people. I just message them, email them, find guests. I think of, let's say Brian Chontosh that we had on the show, right? A former US Marine. I wanted to have a Marine on. I thought it was an interesting story. So what did I do? Just type in war hero. That's genuinely how I found Brian Tosh, war hero. Oh, Brian Chontosh comes up, an article about what he's, you know, the amazing things that he's done. Go do check that video out if you are interested in hearing that story. And then you whack him on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, try and find an email, bang, get in touch as many ways as possible, and you got the sort of the most chance of booking your guests. I get so many ignores, if you will, like so many people just air me. Fair enough. I get quite a bit of rejections as well because they're busy or whatever. I don't mind that. But you know, 1, 2 out of 10 people might say yes, and so that's just what it's all about. You know, if you throw enough shit at the wall, basically enough will stick. So yeah.
Do you ever panic in an interview because you aren't sure what to ask next?
Do I ever panic in an interview? At the beginning, yeah. I think we'll get on to my involvement in the United Stand later, but just to touch on it quickly, I used to do a show called the Sander on the Street, basically where I went around the streets outside Old Trafford, was Manchester United's football stadium, and basically just interview random people. And obviously you go into that interview, that first question, the Vox Pop, you'd go into it with an initial question. Do you think this player's any good or not? Bang, they'd give the answer. But you've got to make that little interview, that little clip longer than, 10 seconds long. So then I'd have to learn to speak on my feet, learn to think of a question off the back of what they've said. So I think that helped me out a lot. And as I said, at the beginning, I did struggle with it. I did struggle with knowing what to say next. So I heavily planned. I planned a bit too much, I think, because at times the interviews can come across slightly too regimented, not natural. So that's something I've tried to develop as time's gone on. But no, as you can tell by this, I'm a fairly natural speaker, and I don't want to stroke my own ego too much. But, speaking and entertaining and, conversing with people has always come fairly naturally to me. So not too much to answer your question. No, not too much, but at times, certainly, yeah.
Was it difficult to find a particular interview style that works best for you, or did it just come naturally?
Interview. I've never really thought about an interview style or how I've always wanted to be quite relaxed. I've always quite enjoyed inspirations like people like Poet and Vooge. They basically, 2 guys talk about football and they interview footballers. They have done a lot of that in the past, but they break it down. They make it very easy to talk to them, and they don't treat the footballers as if they're these amazing people. They treat them like they're just lads, like they're just mates. And I think I've always enjoyed that. But then I've also enjoyed the whole like Jonathan Ross, Graham Norton style of show. I like that idea of it being professional and sitting down and interviewing in that sort of way. So I think it's just about taking inspiration from different people that I enjoy watching. True Geordie being like a huge inspiration to me. So just taking bits and pieces from them and then just putting my own spin on it. But no, I've never really overthought it too much. It has come fairly naturally to me.
Which of your current interviews are you the most proud of?
Most proud of interview? It's like asking me to pick, which child is my favorite. Like, do you know what I mean? It's like asking parents to choose which child is their favorite. I've honestly, I'm not just saying this. I have loved them all. I really have loved them all, and I'm very proud of all of them. I think that's a big thing now. Before, when, like, as I talked about, like, the bullying, quote unquote, that I used to get, they'd share my videos around, and even though I was, like, proud that I was doing something and being productive, as I said, I was in a way a bit embarrassed of the videos, because they weren't the best, and I'm going to Sainsbury's now. Do you know what I mean? It was a bit embarrassing. But now I feel like I'm making videos where, first of all, I've gone through the threshold of embarrassment, which I think if you're a young, person wanting to do this, stick with it, it will get better. But also, I'm making videos now that I'm actually proud of. Now, I'm under no illusions that they can get better. Of course they can, right? They can get a lot better, and I'm looking to improve them always. But I'm making videos that I'm proud of now, and I just, so on that question, I am very proud of all the interviews. But my favourite one, the one that I enjoyed the most, I think there's two. Tosh, I got on with him really well, the Marine, and I think he had some amazing stories. And that was my first one in this set. That was my first big one, because the ones previously, I'd known all the interviewees. So I'd known Anella, the first one. I'd known Michael Hennessy, the boxer, and I'd known Luke, or Crystal Versace, the drag queen. So Tosh was my first one where I'd actually gone out, emailed someone, and he was a blue ticker on Instagram. Like, he's verified on Instagram, and he had a lot of followers, and he had an amazing story, and I wanted to be respectful of his story and all these sorts of things. And just to have him on was just such a huge step in the sort of progression of the sit down, I feel like. So I was extremely proud of that one. But then also, obviously the Goldbridge one. But again, I know Goldbridge very well, so that wasn't, that was just sort of natural, But with the Tracy Cox, having her on, the sex expert, I thought that was one of the best ones so far. Just not because she had an amazing life story, but just because she was just brilliant. She's such a brilliant guest. Like, she spoke so well. She's clearly, she clearly knows what to say in the media and in front of the camera. So to have her on was brilliant. So yeah, I'd say Tosh and Tracy.
So you mentioned Goldbridge just then. Yeah. How did you actually get involved with the United Stand?
Well, a lot of people ask me this as well. I get a lot of DMs about how I get involved in the United Stand. And obviously, people, the United Stand's gone from strength to strength, and it's doing amazing things now. But when I got involved, it was still doing amazing things. It was like 30,000 subscribers, 30, 40. And basically, just called into the United Stand. Obviously, at this time, it wasn't as big. So Mark first started these Skype shows, and he basically said, just, here's the Skype name, call in. And I did, and I got on. I made a Skype account just for that show, and got on. As it was a lot easier then to do so. He accepted my call, and I chatted about United versus Chelsea. We'd lost 4-0, and he liked what I had to say. And from there, he said, "Oh, why don't you come on the next show?" And so I did. And then he said to come on the next one, so I did. And then things progressed. And then in 2017, I moved to Spain, at which point Mark said to me, do you want to present for That's Football? Because That's Football at the time was a football channel, like the United Stand fan channel, that they were trying to create for all football fans. So for not only United fans, but Chelsea, Liverpool, Villarreal, every fans. And so what they wanted me to do was be like the Spanish correspondent for it, because I was in Spain, so I could get to Real Madrid games, Getafe games. I was in Madrid, so Atletico Madrid games and that sort of thing. So they wanted me to do that side of things. Turns out, in the end, I just did everything with Mark, which was brilliant for me, because it's what I wanted to do. So did that for a bit. Took a little bit of time out for the United Stand for whatever reason. We both went our separate ways. And then when I was moving to Manchester, they got in touch with me and said, listen, we want someone who's going to be based in Manchester to present for us. And so, so that hence the content outside Old Trafford. And yeah, it's just gone from there. So listen, I'm under no illusions. I always tweet this. I'm under no illusions that Goldbridge is just like, he's just been such a huge, him and, Drawty Devil, him and Drawty Devil have been such huge parts of my, any like quote unquote success that I've had. They've been huge parts of it, because without them, I wouldn't have had half the people watching this show, and I wouldn't have had that amazing Goldbridge interview. I wouldn't have had the ability to present on the United Stand in front of thousands and thousands of people. I wouldn't have. Honestly, I don't think I'd have had over 200 followers on Twitter. I'm on just under 7.5 now. So without them, I wouldn't have been able to do it. Of course, my own effort has gone into it to an extent, and I've done my own thing, and this doesn't happen just on its own, just because of them. But certainly the eyes they've brought onto me, I'm forever grateful for, and I certainly don't want it to come across like I'm not grateful, because I definitely am. And I know that sounds like I'm brown-nosing them and all, but yes, I am brown-nosing them, because I just am so sort of forever grateful to them. So that's how I got involved with the United Stand.
What's it like doing a live show for a channel with just under 1 million subscribers?
Well, wow. So the United Stand obviously has just under 1 million subscribers, and we get, I did a stream this morning. I think we had like 8, 9, 10,000 people viewing, like watching concurrently. What's that, 150,000 maybe views total? And that, again, that's not me bragging. That's just, the honest facts of it. I think it helps the fact that I'm like live streaming, and the fact that, like I'm literally just sitting there with the camera and you guys are chatting to me. I think it also helps the fact that my involvement with the channel has, been for a while. And so when I was first started, we might have had 600 people watching concurrently, and I was so nervous at the beginning. But because I've sort of been drip fed, I've not joined the channel now and it's all at once and oh my god, there's 8,000 people. It's progressively got more, so that's helped to an extent as well. But I was so nervous at the beginning. Even when I started doing the streams for the United Stand, I was so nervous. But it just, with practice, it just gets easier and easier. And as I said, I've always been an entertainer. Like, as much as it's nerve wracking, it's what I want. It's not. I've never had the feeling, oh, let me run and not do it. It's like, oh, let's do it. And at times, maybe I've gone out my shell too much. I think that's something that I've always done. When I meet new people or get in nervous situations, a lot of people go in themselves, and Megan can back this up. A lot of people go in themselves. I tend to really go out myself. I tend to really put on too much of a show. And, people have told me that on United Stand in the past, and maybe that's what I'm doing here. I don't know. But that's just a personal trait of mine. And so, nerve-wracking, but it's me. I'm an entertainer, and that's what I want to do. So,
you mentioned then that you're always very happy and bubbly and always the entertainer. Yeah. A fan asked on Twitter if that is often to cover up something that's not so positive.
That's an interesting question. I have to think about it. No, I don't think so, to be honest. I think you can back this up as well. Like, I am actually like this, just pretty much all the time. Like, I'm pretty bubbly and pretty chatty and like this most of the time. And I think that's actually a shock to people when they meet me. Like, a lot of people meet me and go, oh my god, he's like this in real life. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, and not a lot of people meet someone with like the energy levels of myself. So I can be a little bit much for people at times. And I guess I'm a little bit Marmite in that sense, where a lot of people, either love me or hate me because I am like this in real life, and I can be a bit overwhelming. Of course, you tone it down a little bit, but in general, I am very bubbly and happy. Look, listen, I've not had no issues in the past. I've talked about it in the channel pre the sit down. My parents split up. That was a big sadness for me in my life, and carried over for a long time. My dad moved to Spain. These sorts of things have happened. So. In the main, I'd say I've not had the happiest of times, although I'm absolutely understanding the fact that I've had an extremely privileged life, and a lot of people have it a lot worse. But I've had my down moments, but no, I wouldn't say me being happy is to cover up anything. I think I'm quite emotionally expressive, so when I'm sad, you'll see it. When I'm ill, you hear it. You know what I mean? So I think I'm quite emotionally expressive in that sense. So when I'm really happy, you'll see it, and when I'm not, you won't.
Okay. So I've got a lot of fan questions now from Twitter. Right. Really random.
Okay.
How old are you?
I get this a lot on the United Stand, though, I get there a lot. Like, people don't know. Well, I'm actually, by the time this comes out, I'll be 20. I'll be 20. But 3rd of October is my birthday. Currently, as we're recording this, I'm 19. And that comes to a lot of shock to people, because I think they say, I look mid-20s or something like that. I don't know if that's the hairline, Megan, or the dodgy facial hair. I don't know what's going on, but somehow I still get ID'd when I'm trying to get into Wetherspoons. So it works. It's a negative because they go, you look really old. But then when you need it to work your way and you need to get in without an ID, I forgot my ID at home. Sorry, mate, we can't let you in. You look 18. Oh, anyway. So 19. What's
your favourite film?
I don't watch movies. I don't really watch movies, to be fair. I'm more of a fan of like series. So in regards to series, I'd say Narcos. or Peaky Blinders. Those two are up there for me. Breaking Bad was good, but like I didn't finish it because it went on for so long. So I finished Narcos and Peaky Blinders like very eagerly. I'm just a huge fan of those two series. But movie-wise, as I said, I don't really watch movies. If I had to choose, though, I'd probably go Shutter Island. I'm a big fan of Shutter Island. I just like that sort of, brain-challenging, intense, suspenseful, like sort of movie. I like that a lot. So yeah, Shutter Island or Prisoners. That's another one. Prisoners for me. I'm a big fan of Prisoners. So Shutter Island or Prisoners.
Where do you live?
Where do I live? Imagine I gave them my address. No, I live in Manchester at the moment. My family's all over the place, to be honest with you. So I was born down south, Pembury in Kent. And so I grew up there in a place called Tunbridge Wells in Kent, Sevenoaks. So that's where I lived for 16 years. And then when I was 15, my dad moved to Spain, as I've just mentioned. And so after my GCSEs, I had to move school anyway. So my dad said to me, well, why don't you come out to Spain and then do your sixth form and your A-levels over here? So I said, no. After a year, I said no. But then eventually, and my relationship at home with my family wasn't necessarily the best, and the idea of maybe moving to another country, and I was single at the time, so the women appealed to me as well, and that sort of thing was great. So I actually said, yeah, I'll do it, Dad, yeah. So then I lived in Spain for 2 years, and then came back down south very briefly, and then went to uni in Manchester. I'm living in Salford, but literally just outside of Manchester. So Manchester, to answer your question.
What's your dream job?
This.
That's that then?
That's it. No, if I could do this as my job, like do the United Stand, do like the sit down or something similar, it would honestly, like, what else would I want in life, mate? Imagine doing this for a job, sitting down and chatting to a camera, speaking to interesting people. Do it, like, you know this, you can back this up, and you and my mum always say this, like, this is me down to a T. Everyone's always said to me, like, this is you, man. Like, you can't imagine me sitting in an office, can you? Like, doing the invoices. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. But it's just not. I would twitch. I'd twitch till I die. I couldn't do it. This is me all over. So, I'd absolutely love to make this work. And hopefully it does. The United Stand, something along those lines. If I can just entertain and present for a living, then I'd be one happy chappy.
You've said a lot that your parents are Dutch, my parents are Dutch, blah, blah, blah. Do you speak Dutch?
Yeah. And I'm not speaking Dutch now.
Give me a sentence.
Hoe gaat het? No, I do speak Dutch. As I said, I was born in England, but both my parents are Dutch. So I was that was actually my first language. And so yeah, to answer your question, although it's fading, I have to say it is fading, because I don't really, like, most of my family's in Holland, but I don't really see them too often, to be fair, and, like, obviously now I don't speak Dutch on a day-to-day basis, so eventually, without speaking it often, and not seeing Dutch family a lot, then you do, it does end up fading, but it's in there. Like, when someone speaks to me in Dutch, I know what they're saying, the words are there, but I sometimes struggle to get them from the back of my head and put them out. So I think if I spent a little bit of time in Holland, like a week or two, I'd be right back at it. So I must say though, it's not nice that it's going, because I think it's a little bit poor on my part. I should make more of an effort of keeping it up. And the saddest thing for me is, like, I get a little bit anxious to speak to my grandma now, because, like, I love my grandma to absolutely, all my grandparents, love them to bits, but like, I want to speak to Oma, which is the Dutch word for grandma. But like, when I call her or text her, I don't know. I sometimes forget what to say, and like, it creates a bit of a barrier. So I really want to get it back for that sense to like just speak to her a bit more. So yeah.
Are you into any other sports other than football?
Other sports other than football, like, a lot for most of my life, it was just football. And like, I go to the gym now as well, which I'm pretty sure we'll touch on later. But yeah, for most of my life, it was just football and doing that. And I, by the way, I must make sure to mention that I get a lot of people say, why don't you talk about Sancho? Why don't you talk about this and that on your channel and talk about football? As I talked about with Mark Goldbridge last week, if you want to see me chat about football, you can see me on the United Stand. This is me talking about myself as I'm doing in this video, but also, I'm interviewing people. And this is an interview, a chat show. So I don't talk about football on this channel just because I want to create a level of exclusivity to my content. And so if I'm talking about football everywhere, eventually no one will care about me talking about football. But if I talk about football in the United Stand and keep it there and then keep this here, I hope I can compartmentalise my content. So that's why I don't talk about football on this channel. But to answer your question about if I've been into any other sports, recently I have actually got into NFL. This is my first season as an NFL fan. I'm a Ravens fan. As we speak this Sunday, tonight we've got the Chiefs. So former Super Bowl champions this year. So that's gonna be a tough game. But so I'm into NFL at the moment. I gave NBA a little bit of a go, but I didn't go into this whole sort of Disneyland tournament with a team. So I was watching it more as a neutral and I couldn't really get into it. Whereas the NFL, I've got an investment into it. I'm a Ravens fan, so I'm backing, them lot the whole way. So it's a little bit more interesting for me to watch. So yeah, NFL, football, I'm a big martial arts fan. So like boxing, MMA, like UFC sort of thing. I'm a big fan of that. Bit of a casual, I must say. I'm a bit of a casual. I don't watch every fight night. But I am a fan. I do enjoy that. So there.
You said just then that you go to the gym a lot now. Yeah. Someone on Twitter's obviously noticed because he said, "How did you lose all the weight?"
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit embarrassing because I go to the gym quite a bit now and I'm still not hench. Do you know what I mean? But I was a chubby little prick. I was a chubby little boy. I'm sure I can put the photos on the screen for you. I basically, when I went to Spain, I just stopped playing football because I played football all my life. And then when I went to Spain, so I started eating bad, drinking loads as I got a bit older. And I just wasn't going to the gym. I was lazy, this sort of thing. And so the weight started to pile on. And then when I went to uni, I didn't go to the gym. And I drank a lot. And Domino's was my best friend. And so it just started to get worse and worse and worse. And I was medically overweight. I was my body fat percentage was in 22, and that's that's overweight. That's really bad. 22%. So in lockdown, I just said to myself, I'm just gonna lose it. So I just smashed it. I can do a separate video for you guys if that's what you're interested in. But losing weight, you just want to be in a calorie deficit, i.e., ingest less calories than you burn. Basically, you want to do it within reason, and you want to do it staggered, so your metabolism can get used to it, and There's loads of aspects to it. You want to do it healthily. You don't want to starve yourself, because if you starve yourself and you don't get enough calories in, your body will go into starvation mode, keep it all on, and it will be counterproductive. Anyway, we can talk about that at a later date, but yeah, just high intensity interval training, just cardio, and then now I'm in my bulk, trying to put on a little bit of weight now, but as you can hear, I'm a little bit ill, so I haven't been for the last couple of days, and then my shoulder's been twigging a little bit recently as well, so I've sort of let that rest, because my brother's got sort of a long-lasting shoulder injury, so that stopped him from going for quite a while, so I want to stay as far away from sort of bad shoulder injuries as possible, so but I'm in my bulk at the moment, and yeah.
If you could speak to yourself 5 years ago and give yourself some advice for your career, what would you say?
Don't take the breaks that I did. Because even though the breaks that I did have sort of created... Because if you don't know, I've done YouTube for ages now. But I'd do 2 months here, a month there. No, 2 months here and then 8 months off. And then 2 months here, 3 months off. I'd never actually stick to it. If I could just give myself any advice, it would just be just stick to it, because I was onto something. And also the big one is don't worry about perfection. Don't worry about getting things perfect. And might I say that I think we've done pretty well here. But at the beginning, perfectionism stopped me from doing it, because I'm no, if it's not perfect, I don't want to do it. And so in the end, you just don't do it, because you can't get perfect. It's so difficult to get to perfect. It's not perfect now. None of this is perfect, So, I think kick perfectionism out of your life, because just start doing it and don't stop. Don't stop. And that's what I'm saying to myself now. And I actually overwhelm myself. I think what a big issue is I want to create good content. And so, even though I say get perfectionism out of your life, I still want to, have quality as well as quantity. And so that's why I do these episodes once every 2 weeks. And so, I do want to have sort of the good content, and I overwhelm myself at the beginning, where I'd say to myself, all right, we're going to do a video once every week. I'd run out of ideas, I'd run out of things to do, because as I said to you previously, I've got nothing interesting to talk about, right? So now, let's say I said I'm going to do the sit down once every week. Because it's a guest-based podcast and guest-based show, let's say 1 week I couldn't get a guest on, I wouldn't get a show out. I'd stress myself out that the consistency is gone, and then I'd just quit. Whereas now I've got it once every 2 weeks, and they're coming out, and it gives me enough time to think of guests and get them. And then when I get this, when this becomes like, when I get into my flow state and this becomes like really easy to do once every 2 weeks, then we can talk about stepping it up, making it once every week. But at the moment, I didn't want to overwhelm myself. So I think keep going. Don't overwhelm yourself with like committing to something that you're not able to, and kick perfectionism out of your life.
Someone asked, how do I create a high production look for my channel but on a really small budget?
Wow, lighting. I mean, I'm not a tech guru. There's so many things that I've literally just got one light here. But come up with an idea of how you want to look. Like, it's research, copy people. Like, that's what I've done. That's all I've done. I've copied people here, and just put my own little spin on it. Like, as I said, True Geordie's a huge inspiration. I cannot tell you how big a fan I am of True Geordie. And so, like, the kickoff, he has this TV, the Impulsive have that, like, TV in the background. I'm giving you away all my secrets, but they've got the TV in the background with the logo, so I've done that. Obviously, you need a good light, and so if you can sit in front of like a big natural light, that's often good. Like, if you look at my first 3 videos, I've got no lights there. And then, yeah, I mean, you are going to have to pay. Like, if you want a high production, like, product, you're going to have to, pay for it. But, I'd say just lighting and audio quality and video quality. And yeah, I don't know. It's difficult to do on a low budget. And this has been done on a low budget because like tech and filming stuff can get so expensive in relativity to that, in reference to that. This is a low budget, But yeah, I'd say use your phones as well. Phones are great nowadays. That's really good. And like even for the United Stand, if you look at the United Stand Sander on the Street videos, I'm recording my audio with my phone. So yeah.
Now I've got one last question.
Okay.
It's a bit deep, so I'm going to have to ask you to take this quite seriously,
Right.
please. If you could go for a pint with 5 celebrities, past or present, who would they be?
It's a deep one, that. I haven't thought about this, so this is difficult. Right, I'd have to go with Cristiano Ronaldo because he was just like my inspiration growing up. I'd go, this sounds mental because out of everyone that you could choose from, this sounds mental, but I'd go True Geordie. I'm just a huge fan, and I have been for years and years and years. I've been watching him since he was doing the Football Hangover about Newcastle and the results. And so, yeah, I'd go True Geordie, Cristiano Ronaldo. This is really difficult. There's 5. Can we make it 3? Make it 3. It's easier. All right, so we go True Geordie, Cristiano Ronaldo, and can I say my granddad? Yeah, my granddad. My granddad's he died in 2016. He's a celebrity in my eyes. So if I could pass the present, I'd say my granddad, Ronaldo, and True Geordie. I could probably come up with better answers, but yeah. Nice one. All wrapped up. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys have enjoyed the episode. Bit of a different one. We will be back with guests in the near future. But as I said at the beginning of the show, because there's so many of you who have just recently subscribed to the channel, and I haven't actually introduced myself to those that were here originally as well. So I thought it'd be good to have a little sit down with you and talk to you and explain myself. And hopefully you guys can get to know me a little bit better. And, now you understand where I come from a little bit more. So I hope you have enjoyed the video. A bit of a different one, as I said, but we will be back with guests very, very soon. I think, when this comes out next week, we'll come out with one there, and then we'll go back to the once every 2 weeks. So I hope you guys have enjoyed it. Make sure to subscribe. I really appreciate all of you that are watching. I really do. Like the video. Let me know if you enjoyed it or not. And I'll see you guys next week. Ta-da.